Okay, so get this. I was at the grocery store just the other day, right? And things got a little intense.
Oh, what happened? Let me guess, someone stole your parking spot.
Close. This guy nearly took my head off trying to grab the last carton of oat milk. I mean, seriously, dude, chill. It's oat milk, not the last helicopter out of Saigon. It got me thinking, why is this competitive instinct so strong, even for the smallest things?
It's fascinating, isn't it? That me-first impulse. And you're right, it does seem to kick in even when the stakes are pretty low. What you're bumping up against there, it's not just grocery store aggression, it's something researchers call primals.
Primals. Okay, you've officially piqued my curiosity.
All right. So these primals, they're like these fundamental beliefs we carry around about the world, almost like these deeply ingrained lenses. And they shape how we act, how we react, often without us even realizing it. Things like, is the world a safe place or a dangerous one? Are people inherently trustworthy? These core beliefs, they influence everything.
Okay, hold on. So you're saying my inner monologue while battling it out for that oat milk, something like, he's going to get it, I need to get it first,
Yep.
is being driven by these dot primals.
Exactly. And these aren't just fleeting thoughts either. We're talking about beliefs that are surprisingly consistent throughout our lives. In fact, researchers have developed a 99-item survey to measure these beliefs. 99 items.
99 items to figure out if you're an oat milk warrior? Intense, but seriously, a survey.
It might sound a bit over the top, but the research is actually fascinating. It turns out these seemingly simple beliefs, like whether you view the world as fair or unfair, those beliefs can predict some pretty complex stuff, like your political views.
Wait, hold up. Political views? You're telling me that whether I grab the oat milk first is somehow connected to my political leanings?
Well, maybe not the oat milk specifically, but you'd be surprised. Studies have actually shown a strong correlation between specific primals, those fundamental beliefs, and political affiliation.
Okay, I'm officially baffled. Give me an example. How could my beliefs about, say, whether people are inherently good or bad, how could that possibly sway my political stance?
Well, for instance, people who tend to view the world as a fundamentally just place, they often favor democratic systems. Makes sense.
Right.
Whereas those who perceive the world as more hierarchical, maybe even a bit dog-eat-dog, they often lean toward more authoritarian systems.
That actually makes a lot of sense. Wow. Okay, this is blowing my mind. So you're telling me these deeply held beliefs, these primals, they shape our political views.
It's more interconnected than you might think. And here's the real kicker.
Mm.
These beliefs are often inherited. Yeah, we get them from our families, our upbringing, and they can be surprisingly resistant to change throughout our lives.
Wow, that's wild. And yeah, now that you mention it, my parents' beliefs about the world definitely rubbed off on me growing up. But this brings up a big question. Is it nature or nurture? Are we born with these competitive instincts, or does society kind of mold us into oat milk warriors? Like that age-old question, right? Are we born this way, or does life kind of make us who we are?
Exactly. And just like most things in life, it's not as simple either or. It's this fascinating dance between biology and environment. Think of it like our genes provide this basic blueprint, the foundation. Some folks might be genetically predisposed to be more cautious, a little more hesitant, while others, they're naturally more trusting, ready to jump in with both feet.
So it's not just our genes dictating whether we're going to go full-on warrior over that last carton of oat milk.
Exactly.
Hmm.
But it's the environment that really steps in and colors in those lines, those early experiences, how we were raised, the cultural norms we're swimming in, all of that interacts with our biology to shape those ingrained behaviors.
Okay, so using my very scientific oat milk example, even if I'm, let's say, genetically predisposed to be a bit more assertive, growing up in a household where sharing was encouraged could actually override that me-first instinct.
Absolutely. And it gets even more interesting. Those behaviors we learn, they actually create this feedback loop. It's like they can either reinforce those initial predispositions or challenge them. Let's say you were raised in a home where sharing was highly valued, right?
Mhm.
You'd be way more likely to approach that whole oat milk situation with a totally different mindset, maybe even offering to split it. And that positive interaction, it just reinforces those cooperative behaviors, making you even more likely to approach similar situations the same way in the future.
Wow. Hadn't thought about it like that before. It's like building good habits, but on this whole other level. But speaking of deeply ingrained habits and us talking about this competition versus cooperation thing, it got me thinking about something I've been kind of wrestling with, this really annoying tendency I have. I always have to be right, even when I know I'm probably wrong. Ugh.
And that is a perfect example of how these ingrained patterns, even the ones we totally recognize aren't doing us any favors, can be so darn hard to change. But, and this is the good news, it's not impossible. Our brains, they have this amazing capacity for what we call plasticity, which basically means they can change and adapt throughout our lives. We're not stuck.
Okay, that is incredibly reassuring. There's hope for me yet. But getting back to this competition versus cooperation idea for a minute, it seems like competition is so deeply rooted in everything around us. We're practically raised on all these stories about winners and losers, survival of the fittest, all that. Were humans always like this? Like, were our ancestors constantly battling it out for resources?
Okay, so this is where things get really, really interesting. Contrary to what we've always been told, humans haven't always been wired for cutthroat competition. In fact, for the vast majority of our existence, we lived as hunter-gatherers and those societies. They were remarkably cooperative and egalitarian.
Wait, seriously, hold on. You're telling me those hunter-gatherers, the ones who are out there chasing woolly mammoths and foraging for berries, they were more into cooperation than competition? That just seems wild. Give me some examples. I need some serious convincing on this one.
Okay, let's take the Hadza people of Tanzania as an example. They're one of the last remaining hunter-gatherer societies on Earth today, and their way of life is incredible. It gives us this amazing window into our cooperative past. They have this incredibly strong emphasis on sharing resources. Everything is shared. They also have this distinct lack of formal hierarchies and this deep, deep interconnectedness within their communities. It's really amazing.
So hold on. If these hunter-gatherer societies were our, cooperative ancestors, how did we get to where we are now? A world obsessed with competition. What happened?
It was a gradual shift, for sure, but a super important one. And it really took hold with the rise of agriculture. Around 10,000 years ago when we started settling down.
Ah, okay. So instead of chasing after woolly mammoths, we started farming and things shifted. Makes sense.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But with agriculture came this idea of private property. My land, your land, and the possibility of accumulating a surplus of resources, which unfortunately also meant more opportunities for competition. And it's not that our biology completely transformed overnight.
Right, right.
But those social structures, they were changing. Those cultural practices were changing. And those changes started to favor certain behaviors, right? Like competing for land, for resources, for status.
Okay, so it wasn't this instant thing. But over time, those external factors, those societal shifts, they really started to influence our behavior.
Yes, and potentially even our biology over very, very, very long periods. It's like a chicken and egg situation. Did our biology make us prone to competition? Or did competition arise because of the world we were creating? Probably a little bit of both.
It's fascinating, though, right? How intertwined those two things are. And it makes me wonder if we can learn to be competitive. Can we learn to be more cooperative, too? For real, is it possible to escape this competition trap and create a more cooperative world?
That is the million-dollar question, isn't it? Yeah. And it's not an easy one to answer, that's for sure. Look, there are definitely challenges. I mean, the people in power right now, they often benefit from keeping things exactly the way they are.
Yeah, that's true.
But that doesn't mean we should just throw in the towel, right? There are glimmers of hope. One really fascinating concept is what researchers call third-party punishment. It basically means we're often willing to call out and even punish bad behavior, even when we're not the ones being directly harmed.
Third-party punishment. Okay, I like the sound of that. Break it down for me.
Okay, think about it this way. Let's say you're in line for coffee, right?
Yeah.
And you see someone cut the line. Or maybe there's a business doing something shady, like something unethical.
Yeah.
Even if you're not personally affected by it, you still might feel this urge to say something, to report it, to call them out, or even just to boycott that business completely.
Right.
What you're doing is taking a stand against unfairness. You're reinforcing this idea that cooperation matters, even if it costs you something, time, money, whatever.
Wow. I've totally done that before. I've left a bad review for a business that had terrible customer service. Even if, in the end, I got what I needed. It felt good to call out that bad behavior.
Exactly.
But can those small acts actually lead to real change? Large-scale societal shifts? Because that just seems like such a long shot.
It's definitely not going to happen overnight. But these seemingly insignificant acts, they matter. They really do. They send a message, a powerful message. They reinforce these social norms of cooperation, of fairness, even in a small way. And look, I know it seems like a very, very, very slow process. But history has shown us time and time again that massive societal shifts are possible. Remember those Groschian moments we discussed a while back?
I think so, yeah.
Think about the end of slavery. The fight for everyone to have the right to vote, women, people of color, the civil rights movement, these huge pivotal moments in history,
Hmm.
they highlight how cultural norms can and do shift. Over time, things change.
Okay, so change is possible. Got it. But what's next? What do we do? What concrete actions can we take to kickstart this kind of change? How do we move toward a more cooperative world?
There are a few paths we can take. First, grassroots movements. These are critical.
Yeah.
Raising awareness, changing public opinion, pushing for policies that put cooperation ahead of this, dog-eat-dog mentality.
Yeah.
Even just having conversations like the one we're having right now, questioning the way things are, being open to different ways of thinking, that's huge. Then there are these alternative economic models that are really exciting things like worker-owned businesses.
Mm.
Sharing economies, collaborative consumption, these challenge those old traditional ways of doing business.
Those alternatives sound really promising.
They are. And of course, we can't forget about education. We need future generations to be equipped to prioritize cooperation, to understand how vital it is for a brighter future for everyone.
This has been such an eye-opening conversation, so much to think about. It's kind of inspiring in a way to think that even small acts like choosing a local business over a massive corporation or just being willing to engage in thoughtful conversations about these issues can actually contribute to a bigger wave of change.
Absolutely. It starts with recognizing that we're not just along for the ride. We have the power to choose cooperation, to challenge the way things are, and to create a world where maybe, just maybe, we don't have to fight over the last carton of oat milk.
Now that's a future I think we can all get behind. To our listeners, what small act of cooperation will you commit to today? How will you help create a more collaborative, more compassionate world? That's it for this deep dive. Thanks for listening.